Hey friends, welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and everything in between. So thanks for tuning in today. Be sure to subscribe if you're new here, and as usual, let's get into it, guys. She tried to plagiarize my work. I went nuclear. During my freshman year at university, I had been working on a group project with 4 other people. We had completed an experiment as part of a physics module, and each needed to write a report, approximately 2,500 words, to be assessed. As the deadline for this module fell slap bang in the middle of a really active few weeks, I took the uncharacteristically organized decision to write and submit my report a few weeks early. Job done. Free to party over varsity week. One of my colleagues left everything until last minute and called me in a panic 2 days before the due date and asked if I could share my report with her so that she could understand how to structure the report and present the data. Me being a bit dopey and probably still a bit intoxicated from a week of partying sent her my report in its entirety. The following day, night before submission, she called me again and asked if I could proofread her report and make any minor adjustments I saw fit before she submitted. I agreed and she emailed the document over. Much to my horror, she had basically copied and pasted my entire report. I couldn't believe that she was moronic enough to send me the report to look at, given that she had plagiarized the whole thing. This is where I became quite vengeful and petty. I first used the find and replace function on Word, and replaced commonly used words from our experiment with vulgarities. I then replaced a step-by-step methodology from our experiment with the step-by-step recipe for spaghetti bolognese. The data table was replaced with the box scores from the NFL games that weekend. I took the time to change the authors' names in her references to characters from Harry Potter, i.e. Weasley et al. 2009, Dumbledore and Grindelwald 2008. To top things off, I rewrote her conclusion as a confession that she had attempted to plagiarize the report. I sent the revised document to her and fully expected to receive an angry phone call in response. I did receive an angry phone call 3 weeks later when she was called in for a faculty meeting due to academic misconduct. Apparently, being the dingbat she was, she had not even proofread the document I had sent her and had submitted it. She hadn't just failed the module, but was under threat of expulsion, as through trying to blame me for the content of the document, she had inadvertently admitted to attempted plagiarism. Upon returning to the faculty 5 years later as a research fellow, I discovered that the director of teaching had kept a copy of the report and routinely showed it to students as a warning not to plagiarize. Just had a lady threaten to kill me because I wouldn't let her turn right. I was running an errand today, minding my own business, going the speed limit in town. All of a sudden, a large black pickup comes flying up behind me. I didn't think anything of it. I live in the Midwest. This is a daily occurrence. The truck sits on my bumper for just over a mile until we get to a stoplight. I'm in the right lane. They're behind me. They want to turn right and are trying to squeeze past me. Unfortunately, I'm pulled up as far as I can without actually going into the intersection. Immediately, they're on the horn, so against my better judgment, I gave them the bird. Driver door flies open. At this point, I'm thrilled, because I've always wanted to be one of the half-dozen people killed in road rage incidents in the US every day. Luckily, it was only a 70-year-old woman who was screaming so hard I thought her eyes were going to shoot out of her head. The light turns green and I set off down the road. Of course, she follows me all the way to my destination, at which point I get out to walk into the store I needed to go to. She's out of her truck already and screaming at me. Her chinless 40-year-old son is filming the interaction with trembling hands from the passenger seat. As she's ranting, I'm just giving her the talk 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 gesture and walking into the store. As I'm about to go in, she drops the biggie. You know, I've got a concealed carry and I would love to blow your head off right now. At which point, I turned back to her utterly terrified son and made sure he got that part on camera. He didn't say anything, but I told them both that it was fine. I pointed to the store security cameras and told them I'm sure they got the whole thing. She immediately shut up and they took off. In all seriousness though, my adrenaline was way up and it took me a bit to come back down. These people are out of their effing minds. Don't be me. Don't respond. These people are miserable and they want any opportunity to lash out. Ah yes, definitely a responsible gun owner right there. A person with the kind of temperament that's going to get so mad over such a minor traffic conflict that they're going to use the fact that they have a concealed carry firearm as a threat against someone's life. Yep, that's definitely the kind of person that should have access to a gun. Jerk kicked and punched my dog at the dog park. First off, my dog is fine. This feeble old man isn't strong enough to actually hurt my dog. It was just the audacity of his actions. Setting: nice dog park. Big dog section and small dog section. About 12 to 15 dogs. This older man comes in the big dog section with his little dog, which is fine. Other small dogs were in there, everyone is cool. He talks to someone he knows for a few minutes, never lets his dog off the leash, kind of drags him around. He starts walking over to the gate that goes to the small dog section. My dog, Max, trots over to say hi to the little dog. They sniff each other with their tails wagging. His little dog gives Max a little doggy smooch, and out of nowhere, this guy kicks Max in the ribs and punches him on top of the head. Max was fine, he barely flinched, and I promise you, this was completely unwarranted. I was about 15 feet away and I saw the whole thing. Max was scared and confused and started looking around for me, but I covered that 15 feet in about 0.3 seconds. I lost my ever-loving mind. I've never yelled at anyone like that in my life. I never touched him, but I sure wanted him to believe I would. I don't remember everything I said, but it was terrible. I know I said something like, "I know he's big, but you're on the big dog side, you effing moron." And at one point, I asked him what in hell gave him the right to kick and punch my dog. He stammered a little and said, "Well, he was in my way." I lost it all over again. I looked at him for a few seconds and said, "Where is your caretaker? Is there someone I can call for you?" And it worked so well. His defiance turned to shame. His demeanor went from stoic to embarrassed. He and his dog just left. On his way out, someone said to him, "You should apologize to Max." Just pure icing on the cake. He did not, of course. It's been a couple days and still just so angry, but I don't know if I took it too far. A couple people said I handled it like they would have, but I could tell others were scared. A few people had phones out ready to call 911. Max was clearly fine, so I wonder if I took it too far. Not sure if I'd change anything though. Having my neighbor's cars towed from my garage. My house is being built in a neighborhood that's a few years old. My lot is one of the few remaining lots, and there are occupied houses surrounding mine. The exterior is basically complete, and the contractors are in the process of putting up the drywall. After work the other night, I decided to drive out to inspect the work. Everything looked fine until I decided to check out my garage. When I opened the door, I saw 2 cars and a minivan parked inside my garage. I called the contractor to see if he knew anything about them, and he was as perplexed as I was. My guess is that one of the neighbors decided to park their cars inside my garage because there was a slight chance of hail that night. At first, I was just going to leave it alone, but the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. By the time I got to my car, I was steaming mad. So much so that I called a tow company and had them tow all 3 vehicles away. The next morning, my contractor called and told me the police was there to investigate the theft of the vehicles. I had them put the police on the phone and explained that I was the owner of the property, had the vehicles towed, and gave them the tow company information. My contractor told me later that the owners of those vehicles were shouting and cussing them out until the police made them leave. I went by after work and a guy confronted me about being an ass for having their vehicles towed. He was shouting about how I ruined their day because they missed work and their kids were late to school. He also said it cost almost $1,000 to get all 3 vehicles back, and that I'll be covering the cost. I told him good luck with that, and that he's the ass for parking in my garage without my permission. We went back and forth until his wife came and pulled him home. Some of the other neighbors came out to watch our argument, and afterwards some of them told me I was starting off on the wrong foot and should apologize to that guy. They said that I should be more neighborly and understand that neighbors help each other out. One said that I should have left a note instead of having them towed. It seems all my neighbors are against me. I can see their points, so maybe I overreacted? I'm not sure. It's a bit weird for some of those neighbors to say that OP is the one starting off on the wrong foot, when some random people decide that because a house is still being constructed, then it's totally okay to just park their vehicles in the garage without getting permission at all. Even a simple note saying who they are and why they're doing this would have been better than nothing, especially if they at least provided a phone number too. But without any of that, how was OP supposed to know who those cars even belonged to? So by not leaving any info, they really just made it OP's problem to go out of his way and try to hunt down who the hell did this to get them to move it, if he did decide to try to handle this the nice way, that is. Inconsiderate ladies hold the only server in the restaurant hostage with questions. I am not a server, nor have I ever worked in the food industry. During undergrad, a good buddy of mine worked at a small family-owned pizza joint in our college town. It was a cool little place that had awesome pizza and a curated beer selection of local brews. Anyway, my buddy would hook me up with the friends and family discount whenever I came in, usually about 50% off, and he wouldn't let me tip him. Sometimes he didn't charge me. This place was pretty popular and got busy frequently, so my friend told me that part of the deal meant I was low on the priority list when he was helping customers. Fair enough. The pizza quality was awesome, and I was content to hang out for a while whenever I went. However, this one particular day frustrated me to no end. It was a weekday around lunchtime when I came into the restaurant. I was the only person there other than my buddy, the only staff member on shift, meaning he was both server and cook at the same time. Well, unfortunately for me, a group of about 5 older ladies walked in the door about 2 minutes after I did. Since I hadn't ordered yet, my friend went to greet them and take their drink orders. After 5 minutes of watching him stand next to their table, I thought, wow, taking kind of a long time to get their drink orders. Then 5 minutes turned to 10, 10 minutes turned to 15, 15 minutes turned to 20. At this point, I was debating whether or not to walk over to the table and inform the women that they were not the only patrons in the restaurant and they were taking up the only server's time. And since he was also making the pizza, I had not yet placed my order or received my food because of them. In fairness to them, they may have just been so goddamn aloof that they didn't realize he was the only employee. But given the layout of the restaurant, any half-observant person would have recognized that no one else was in the building. Now, these women had no idea I was friends with the server, so if I went over there to speak with them, I planned on keeping it that way. The only reason I didn't go over there and say anything was because I didn't want to sour their mood and have it affect my buddy's tip. I kid you not, 20 minutes turned to 30, and then to 35. These inconsiderate twats asked my buddy questions about the menu and held him hostage at their table for 35 mother-effing minutes straight. My blood was boiling. Nonetheless, I didn't want to affect my friend's tip by yelling at these ladies, which I was on the verge of doing, so I said nothing. After what felt like an eternity, he finally got their order, then mine, and began making the food. The kicker, he told me once he got back to our apartment that those old hags stiffed him. After all his great service and time spent answering simple questions that the menu could have answered if they just read it, no tip. So I'm just going to go ahead and point out that yes, while the customers were annoying, it's kind of the server's fault that it was allowed to go on for that long. When you work in customer service, you deal with all kinds of difficult people, and it's kind of the worker's job to take control of the situation when things get out of hand like this. But it kind of seems like the server just let these customers monopolize his time. After 5 or 10 minutes of their endless questions that could have been answered by just reading the menu, the server could have just said something like, I'm happy to answer any questions that might not be on the menu, but everything you should need is on the menu, so I'll just give you a couple minutes to decide and I'll come back, and just leave it at that. But 35 minutes of being stuck talking to them is just incredibly excessive. I mean, you have to draw a line somewhere. Alright everyone, that's it for today's stories. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe for more Reddit content. So take care, I'll see you next time.